Here's what we're talking about today on Daily Blast Live.
Today, we are celebrating Juneteenth with special guest ballet superstar Misty Copeland, comedian, actor, and SNL alum Jay Farrow, and Good Times actress Bernadette Stanis. Then, former NFL player Tony McGee reflects on the power of protest as a member of the Black 14. You don't want to miss a moment of this special episode, dedicated to trailblazers who are helping shape Black history.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No. Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to a very special edition of DBL. Today we are celebrating Juneteenth. And what better way to honor the day than to celebrate stories of Black excellence? You can't talk about Black excellence without saying the name Misty Copeland. Whew, child. She was the first African-American female principal dancer at the prestigious American Ballet Theater. She was also named one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world. And she was given the NAACP's highest honor. Before we chat with Misty, here's a look at her story.
I think that because of the way I grew up, I was craving something that gave me structure, that gave me stability, that gave me consistency. I was in so many schools. By the time I was like 7 years old, I think I had been in like 8 different schools. We didn't always have a roof of our own over our heads. There was abuse in the home, and music and dance was always my safe space. I'd find a corner and I would create, and it was like, this is how I block out everything. By the time I was 13 years old, we were living in a motel, and it was that same year that a free ballet class was being offered at the Boys and Girls Club, and that was where I was introduced to ballet for the first time. From the moment that I took that first ballet class, the teacher, Cindy Bradley, she said to me after the class, "You're a prodigy, and I think that you have a real chance at a future in this art form." And it just went over my head. She was sending home notes for me to give to my mother to explain what this would entail, and I was throwing the notes away. I was actually 15 years old. It was the first time I went to the theater and I saw American Ballet Theater, and my whole world changed. I became a professional with only 4 years of training, which is like unheard of. It's extremely rare to see Black and brown people, period, but specifically Black women. I spent the first decade of my career at ABT as the only Black woman in a company of 90+ dancers. And then I also started to experience racism within my professional career. Once I was promoted to principal dancer, and being the first in ABT's 75-year history, first Black woman, that people kind of looked at it like, why are you still talking about this? Like, you got there. I have a responsibility to not be the first and the only to hold this position.
Please welcome to the show the incomparable Misty Copeland. Thank you so much for being here, Misty. I have heard your story so many times, and it never loses its impact. I thank you for being here and continuing to speak out on behalf of all of us. And to our viewers who might not understand the dance world, can you explain how difficult it is for anyone to become a professional, especially a woman of color?
Yeah, definitely compare the the classical ballet world at this level, the elite level, dancing for companies like American Ballet Theater and New York City Ballet, the Paris Opera, the Bolshoi. This is like the NFL. This is like MLB. This is like the NBA. So it's a small percentage of people that really have all that it takes. It's not just the athleticism and the technical aspects and the physical feats, but you also have to be an artist to emote and to be able to tell through movement. we're not speaking on stage. It's simply the technique and the movement that's telling the story. So, that in it of itself is extremely, demanding and rigorous and difficult to get into. And then you add being a person of color, and it's just such a rare thing to see. It's a European art form that didn't come to America, until maybe the 30s or 40s, and we're still to this day trying to find our place, accepted by the ballet world in a true way, and given fair access and opportunity.
So, Misty, congratulations on all the success, by the way, but you hold titles like we saw in the package, like Prodigy and The First. How do those descriptions make you feel?
It's not something I really think about in my life at this point. Early on in my career, it definitely set me apart in a lot of ways. I think that because of my ability to pick up the movement so quickly and retain all of this information that I was learning, it set me apart. It gave me opportunities, because I was being nurtured as well. I don't think it was just because of my natural talent. I had an amazing, team of incredible mentors that have been in my life since I started dancing at the age of 13. But as I got older, that's something that I had to know of, that title, that label, Prodigy, and kind of continue to work and grow as an adult and as a professional, and stepping into a very different experience. I no longer was that young girl that could just pick things up, but now I had to compete against dancers who had been dancing since they were 3 years old, and prove myself as an artist, and know that I had consistency and perseverance. And to me, those are the qualities that have gotten me to this point in my career.
I'm just fangirling a little bit, so I want to say, so honored to speak with you. You say you were a very introverted child, but that's not how you are on stage, and we could see your facial expressions when you did those sort of little moves. How did ballet specifically help you break that shell? From the moment that I stepped into a studio, and then eventually, weeks later onto the stage for the first time, there was this sense of protection that I felt, this sense of freedom as well. Whereas, I spent my whole life, feeling that I was going to be judged or criticized, and not really feeling that I was being nurtured. And this goes for, in school as well. I went to public schools, but I never felt like I was really being invested in and nurtured. And when I went into the ballet studio, I was in this very vulnerable place. And I think that you kind of have to enter in that way. I mean, we're literally practically naked. So you're very vulnerable when you're in this. But there was something about it that made me feel that what I was saying mattered, through movement, which spoke to me. It made much more sense than me using my voice. And it made me a better student in school. It made me more confident as a person, just developing these skills to be able to hold your body and have this strength and this grace. And again, to have structure within the class setting that I never experienced at home. All of these things attributed to me just maturing and growing into a woman who could stand on her own, speak up for herself, and have strength and confidence. I certainly did that.
Wow. Misty, we just want to thank you for coming and spending a little bit of time with us. It is incredible to me, and I'm a little emotional, but you've been such an inspiration in my life, and I look at my little nieces who are under 5, and you're such an inspiration in their lives. So this is so generational. It's so special, and I thank you so much. Thank you. And DBL Nation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. DBL Nation, check out Misty's website, mistycopeland.com. Also check out her nonprofit, mistycopelandfoundation.org. And if that's not enough, she has a short art film called Flower, and she's launching a women's sportswear line.
Oh my gosh.
Called Greatness Wins. Yes, it does. Scan the QR code on your screen for all these amazing projects. Again, Misty, thank you for spending time with us.
Bravo, Misty, bravo.
Coming up on DBL, on this special Juneteenth episode of DBL, former NFL player Tony McGee joins us live to share what it was like being in the Black 14 and making such a huge mark on history.
DBL, this show is amazing.
There's a lot going on down here.
I would have been part of the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
So on point.
But I'm gonna have a conversation about what's happening now.
Erica's getting her makeup fixed. I was just saying, whenever you see a little girl like in front of the Michelle Obama portrait, if you ever see, there's little girls that sit and look at the Kehinde Wiley, and they look up and they're like seeing what could possibly be. That little girl looking up and saying like, if you can picture it, you can be it. Misty changed all that.
What? She just stole it from the other thing we just did.
You're right, that's right.
Totally just.
But I've always, every time I pass by a Misty Copeland poster or whatever it is, I always stand up a little taller, head up a little straighter, and inside too, in my insides too. That was a starstruck moment for me. Starstruck.
Al, why do you hate ballet so much?
Yeah, why do you hate ballet?
Yeah, I can't. I said get my question out of here.
We ran out of time.
Honestly, just being able to look at Erica and Tori, like in your reaction, there's something so visceral and like loving and like there's this admiration that was like pouring out of you guys. So it was really interesting to have this kind of perspective. And I've just driven past her billboards.
Yeah.
So many times, and just the beauty that she's able to convey
the
is
grace.
like that's the word I'm searching for.
Well, she also came to, like, the way that we met Misty Copeland was actually during daytime talk television. They were telling her story, and it was filled with adversity. She was a very young girl, and I remember being home watching it. I can't remember what the
Is that right? You remember?
what show it was? Yeah, but it was such a captivating story.
Right.
And it was about her upbringing, and she was really in the middle of it at that point. So to see her thrive and see where she is now, it's very emotional.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big moment.
Welcome back to DBL. While Juneteenth has been celebrated for years in Texas, where it's been a state holiday since 1980, Juneteenth was only just recognized as a national holiday in 2021. So this means for a lot of Americans, we're still figuring out how to celebrate. So we thought we'd have a little discussion about how do you all celebrate Juneteenth? Now, I know that this is something that Al and I will probably have a little bit more.
I was just going to say, maybe you should just tell us how to celebrate. Because me and Tori are like, I'm going to get a new goldfish. That doesn't really land. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's honest.
Is it okay to celebrate? Like, explain. That's what I always worry about. Is it a day of sorrow or a day of joy?
It's a day of joy,
Yes.
in my opinion. I did the barbecue in 2021, and last year we did a barbecue. So I think we need to do the barbecue again this year.
Definitely. I'll be with my kids in LA, and I think it's a time where you have a meal and you talk about why Juneteenth came to be and why we're just starting to recognize it. And as I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, what did we do the last couple of years? We've had COVID, and in those years, my kids became adults. So I think we're going to go from me talking to them to them talking back to me. So
wow.
I'm looking forward to this being an evolving holiday.
Wow. I'm looking forward to that too. So much still to learn. Coming up on this special Juneteenth episode of DBL, former NFL player Tony McGee will be here live to talk all about making history as a part of the Black 14 next.
After 4 bloody years, the Union defeated the Confederacy to win the Civil War and abolish slavery in April 1865. There were nearly 4 million slaves in the U.S. at that time. Union armies began marching through the southern states, freeing thousands of slaves each day. The news took months to reach Texas, the westernmost state in the Confederacy. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger and 2,000 Union troops rode into Galveston, Texas, and told slaves of their freedom. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. Granger's words spread through Texas. All at once, slaves found out the war was over and they were free. Their joyous, spontaneous celebration gave birth to Juneteenth. Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, commemorates when the last enslaved people in the South were finally set free. Many slaves were met with violence, even death, when they tried to leave. Yet the promise of freedom extinguished fear and fueled generations of indestructible people. Former slaves gathered on Juneteenth the next year, and the year after that. And over the decades, Black communities observed the holiday with festive family gatherings, colorful parades, and bountiful barbecues. Texas became the first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday in 1980. Since then, 49 states and D.C. also recognize the holiday. In 2021, President Biden signed the bill making June 19th the 11th federal holiday in the United States. Juneteenth is a celebration of independence, the day all Americans were truly free.
Welcome back. Before Colin Kaepernick's infamous kneel during the national anthem, there was a group of college players who were dubbed the Black 14. The only difference in their story, they were punished for just thinking of an idea. Before we chat with one of the players, here's a look at their story.
The year is 1969, and the place is Laramie, Wyoming. The University of Wyoming Cowboys are a powerhouse, with many expecting the team to have an undefeated season. Their squad includes 14 Black players, and they were led by Coach Lloyd Eaton.
Everything was great. Everything was great. And then we're about to enter the BYU game.
BYU has become an epicenter of boycotts and student protests because of the Mormon Church's stance on Black people in their priesthood. It's a stance that bled onto the university's football field a year earlier.
On the way into the locker room, there was a picture of a gorilla and a black man.
As soon as we walked off the field at BYU, the sprinklers came on.
Hey, did you guys see the headline? BYU washes evil off the field.
Wyoming's Black Student Alliance plans to protest before the game, but the 14 Black players on the football team want to take it a step further.
Perhaps we could come up with a black armband. Maybe we can put a 14 on it because there were 14 of us. This issue had to do with black and white. This issue had to do with oppression.
The players schedule a meeting with Coach Eaton to ask him about wearing the armband during the game.
He walks in.
Coach Eaton said, "I can save you gentlemen a lot of time and trouble.
You know, gentlemen, you're no longer Wyoming Cowboys.
As of now, you're all through.
You no longer are a member of the Wyoming football team."
To tell us more, please welcome to the show, Tony McGee.
Oh my word.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tony, during your meeting with Coach Eaton, was there something he said that stuck with you even after all these years?
Well, he went through a bevy of things saying, first of all, he told us that half of us didn't even know who our parents were. Then he told us to go to the Morgan States and the Gramblin's of the world. He told us to go back to our neighborhoods and get on relief. He said, if you don't know what I mean colored or Negro relief. This is what he was saying. He told me that he was picking me up off the streets of Battle Creek, picking up cigarette butts, and I didn't even smoke. He rant and raved at us for a couple of hours. I remember everything he said, almost every word verbatim, because it was something that we never expected. And one thing about it, I want to open this up with, we were punished for something that never happened.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. When you're talking, I just think of stories of my father. There's a reason why we have the show today. There's a reason why we're sitting here today. And I'm really honored to talk to you because I think that if we don't know our history, we're destined to repeat it. So after you were kicked off the team, there were protesters supporting you, but there were also people supporting the coach. Did you ever feel scared for your life after those incidents?
a couple of days after I left, going to another college, Bishop College. Well, a little bit before I left, my roommate got a phone call. He said that they were going to get me. A couple of days after I left, it was a guy found on the building with a high-powered rifle. Yes, I was a little bit afraid when I heard that, not just for myself, but for the guys that I left behind. That's how much people hated us, even though we were not in the wrong. And one thing that we did do wrong, we should have maybe taken the bands over there rather than wearing them, because it seemed like they're wearing them, it just irritated him even more. And the last thing we said before we left the dorm, if the coach says we cannot wear these armbands, we will not wear them. And we had made that promise, but we never got an opportunity to say anything or do anything.
Tony, this story's crazy. I saw it on ESPN, and I played sports for the opposite reason. It brought everyone together, different communities, different places in the world. And to see this, it breaks my heart. And I saw this on for you guys, and it really just broke my heart when I watched it. This incident actually followed you into the NFL. You were supposed to be picked in the first round, but you weren't. I mean, the question is why, but back then, was it different than it would be today?
Well, number one, I was in the All-Star game. I went to Bishop College, and the coach gave me a scholarship sight unseen. Wow. And when I got to Bishop College, I played very well. I made the All-American team and everything. But then while I was at the All-Star game, which is that's all the best 40-some players in the country play against last year's Super Bowl winners, one of my scouts from the Chicago Bears came up to me and he said, you know, it's play ball and keep your nose clean. He said, we are lucky we got you. They got me in the third round. They said LA was going to draft you first round, but they called Wyoming. Wyoming said you was the main troublemaker. So I fell down to the third round. They drafted Jack Youngblood during that round. Jack and I both played 14 years. I think we both missed one game out of 200 and some games. And I got nominated for Hall of Fame. He got elected. Wow. And that tells you how that just changed my whole career. And I'm not saying that it was meant to be this way, because that's the way God wanted it to be. And I was supposed to be a third rounder. But you look at all the effect that it had on me, it had on other people. One of the Black 14s that he told this story, and I didn't know it until a few years ago. He said his father never drank. When he got put off the team, his father started drinking and he became sick from that. So he kind of feel like that was the part of the reason. Some guys end up going to jail. Everybody didn't do well. But one thing about it was we did what we thought was right. But the Black Student Alliance did not do it right either, because they told us schools were waiting for us. Do you realize that no schools waited for us? No one looked for us. But they did. The University of Wyoming went behind 12 of our backs and asked 2 or 3 of the players to come back. I didn't know that till 5 years ago.
Oh, my gosh.
Tony, thank you so much for sharing your story, for your transparency. It's an absolute honor to have you on the show today.
Absolutely.
Yes. And DBL Nation, please check out black14.net. You can donate or purchase a Black 14 shirt. Proceeds support their mission of helping underserved communities. Thank you again, Tony.
Thank you.
We really appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 37 counts related to mishandling classified documents after he left office. Court records reveal FBI agents took 11 sets of classified records from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate during a search on August 8th. In an August 12th post on Truth Social, a social media platform he founded, Trump claimed that the documents were all declassified. The former president's comments prompted several of our viewers, including Beverly and Carol, to ask, can the president declassify documents? So let's verify. Our sources are the U.S. Constitution, Executive Order 13526, Cal McClanahan, Executive Director of the National Security Counselors, a nonprofit public interest law firm, and Richard Immerman, professor and historian at Temple University. According to our sources, a president does have the authority to declassify documents while they're in office, but it isn't a formal process. Let me walk you through the levels of classification in the U.S. government and when presidents can and cannot exercise their power to declassify government records. The 3 levels of classification in the U.S. government are confidential, secret, and top secret. National security expert Kel McClanahan says the classification assigned to a document dictates
the level of damage that its release would call to the national security of the United States.
According to the National Archives, a select group of government officials have classification authority, including the president, vice president, and agency heads. But let's focus on the president. The Supreme Court ruled the president's power over classified information comes from executive authority granted by the Constitution. A sitting U.S. president has wide-ranging authority to classify and declassify certain documents, but a former president does not. To classify a document, a sitting president has to make a plausible argument that it's related to national security, according to McClanahan. But he says there isn't the same requirement for declassifying documents.
He doesn't have to give any reason for declassifying it. He can just say, I decide that this should be declassified, and it's declassified.
According to our sources, there isn't a formal protocol the president has to follow in order to declassify government information. But historian Richard Immerman says there is an informal one that presidents generally follow. First, the president consults all departments and agencies that have an interest in a classified document. They provide an assessment as to whether the document should stay classified for national security reasons, and if there's a dispute among the agencies, they debate it. But ultimately, it's the president that makes the decision on declassification. So we can verify, yes, a president can declassify documents, but there isn't a set protocol that they have to follow. So what about the documents found at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate? Well, there are other federal laws that bar a former president from taking government documents, regardless of whether or not they were declassified. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till. Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Welcome back to DBL. We just had two amazing guests today, and I'm just thinking, like, I'm so overwhelmed. How are you guys feeling?
I mean, I know you guys were both guests great, but I relate to Tony, and I saw that story, Al, and we were talking at the break about how'd you feel quickly? You didn't get a chance.
Well, no, Jeff, I did get a chance to just absorb their stories. And, you know, what I took from both of them is they took their adversity and they channeled it in the right way, because that's the kind of stuff that could and should, in a lot of cases, destroy you from the inside out. And it did happen, he said, to a few of his teammates. So it shows you how hard it is to overcome that stuff. But people can do it and have done it, and we appreciate them being here.
I love it.
Absolutely. Well, here's what's ahead on this special edition of DBL. Our interview with comedian, actor, and SNL alum, Jay Farrow. He's telling us all about his movie that has an all-star black cast. And Good Times actress Bernadette Stanis will be here live. That's all coming up in this Juneteenth episode of DBL.
Spending the day outside during the summer means arming yourself with citronella candles and lots of bug spray to fend off the mosquitoes. But is there a better way to keep those bloodsuckers away? This Instagram video, with nearly 500,000 views, claims that bubbles will do the trick. But is that true? Let's verify. Our sources are the Cleveland Clinic, Terminex, and Dr. Floyd Shockley, an entomologist at the National Museum of Natural History. Shockley says,
there's no particular reason why bubbles of any kind would have a particular impact on mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes find humans through the carbon dioxide we emit and our natural body odors. And some people are just more attractive to mosquitoes. Shockley says that doesn't change just because there's something else with a different smell nearby, like soapy bubble solution. In fact, according to the Cleveland Clinic, the floral scents common in soaps used to make bubbles actually attract mosquitoes. So we can verify, no, bubbles do not repel mosquitoes. But if we look back at that viral video, there is something that could help keep the mosquitoes away. The bubble machine. But it's not because of the bubbles. It's the fan.
Mosquitoes don't like flying in wind. They're not very good at it. And so that has been shown to sometimes reduce the number of mosquitoes in a particular area.
Terminex, a pest control company, says fans can disperse carbon dioxide and odors that mosquitoes use to locate you. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till.
This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Get real.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
This is a sham.
It's finally here. Drum roll.
Welcome to a special edition of DBL. Today we are celebrating Juneteenth and we are sharing stories of Black excellence. Our next guest, was TV's very first Black teenage girl to star in a show. Who can forget good times? Take a look.
What's the name of this dance anyway?
It's called the Freak Out.
No wonder you could do it so good. You've been freaked out for years.
Later for you then.
Brings back memories. We watched Thelma blossom into a Black beauty icon. Please welcome actor and author Bernadette Stanis.
Yeah, Bernadette. Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you. Happy Juneteenth, Bernadette. You say auntie's here?
Honored to be here.
I was like, okay, auntie.
Both are true. Both are good. Both are true.
Well, we are so honored to have you here. And my first question is, did you feel pressure? Because it feels like a lot of pressure, or maybe responsibility to represent young Black women as Thelma on Good Times.
That's very, very funny that you asked me that, because I, too, was born and raised in Brooklyn in the projects. And there were 5 children, a mom and dad, and a 2-bedroom apartment. So I really, really did relate to Thelma on Good Times. Fortunately, I went to Juilliard. I studied acting. So when I had to audition for the part, I was really ready for that. Mm-hmm. It was just like a godsend. I really mean it. My first audition, and I got it.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Amazing. Like, nobody can say that, and I think that means that you can answer this probably better than anybody. Why did it seem like the Good Times on a show called Good Times never seemed to really last that long? There were some really serious plot lines here, and it seems like you just said your background kind of prepared you for that.
Yes. Well, there were very serious issues that we dealt with. And that was one of the wonderful things about Good Times that still lasts today. Norman always wanted to push the envelope. And no matter what was going wrong with Good Times or whatever the problem we had, what we did have was love. And I think that's where the Good Times came from. But I want to also go back to that first question when I said I wanted to give the young girls something to look forward to, because I was one of those girls. Mm-hmm. So no one can say to me that I didn't have aspirations, that I wanted to get out of the ghetto. I wanted to be somebody, a doctor, something. And my mother pushed me, my father pushed me, and we made it. Wow. So I'm saying that there's no limitation. And what he would always say is, what's around you does not have to be in you. So remember who you are, no matter where you are. If you have something that you want to do, you can do it.
Wow.
That sounds like an Erica Cobb quote, for sure, really for sure. But speaking of young girls, what do you remember most about working with the great Janet Jackson before she was a pop superstar?
Oh my gosh. Well, I worked with so many greats. I mean, SRO was my favorite. You know, I loved her very much. But when Janet came on this show, she just brought such beautiful life to us. And you would think that because she was a professional family member, that she had, like, you know, a little attitude and everything. She was so beautiful. I mean, humble, knew all of her lines, and her clothes were always perfect. She was a perfect little girl. And that's all I can say. I loved her, and I still love her. She's still the same.
Absolutely still the same. Now, you're still acting, and you just joined the cast of BET's The Family Business. What do you enjoy most about playing a feisty Southern belle? Sorry for the accent.
That's what I enjoy the most. Oh, my God. You know, Paul Weber and Indy, they, you know, what I love about them is that all they did was call me up. They didn't put me through a whole bunch of auditions and all that. They just knew they wanted me, and they said, "You're the girl. You're Nene." And I said, "I am." He said, "Yes." They gave me the script, and I went right in, and they loved it. And I loved the script because I never played, you know, a sassy, you know, Southern belle before. Yeah. And so they gave me that chance, you know, to do that. And I think that it's going to be a wonderful, you know, 5th season and beyond, hopefully, because my character can go a lot of different ways. You know, I did study.
I was gonna say Juilliard, Juilliard. Yeah, exactly. I was like, you can play anything with that.
Yeah.
You're also an author, and you wrote a book about caring for your mom, who you lost to Alzheimer's, and I'm so sorry. I'm also a caregiver, so I wanted to ask you, why was it important for you to write your book the last night? Talk to us about that.
Well, it was very important for me to write that book because I had written 2 books before that, and I had my mother who had Alzheimer's, and she was with me every day. So I said, Mother, wouldn't it be wonderful if you had a book too? Because people ask you questions about how you got me there, this, that, your life. And she said, yes. And so we said, we're going to do it. But the Alzheimer's started taking over, faster than we can even get a thought on a book. So on the last night of her life, I did promise her, I said, Mommy, that book is going to be written. It's not over yet, because what I wanted to do was, the problem that I had with that was I can see all the academics of Alzheimer's, the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, you go through this, you go through that, call me up, I could tell. But when it came to the heart of this situation, there was nowhere to go. There was nobody that really got it. I mean, some people said, yeah, I lost my mom to Alzheimer's, I lost my mom, but it is your relationship with that person. And I was losing my mother, who I was so close to, my best friend. And I had to see some things, and I had to hide and cry. And nobody in the middle of the night could answer any questions for me. I'm saying, God, why? Tell me the reason for this. And then, after Mommy passed away and I was writing the book answered a lot of questions for me, because after that, I said, why that happened? And, he said, well, that was the way she had to go. Wow. We're all going to go some kind of way. So that was her way to go. And her story has to be told. Her story has to be told about who she was as a woman. I wanted to honor her for that, because she was the one all of her life that fought for me.
And then you fought for her right back. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for honoring us with that story. I know that so many people needed to hear that. I did want to switch gears for a sec, because there's been so many reboots and so many reunions. And I'm curious, when's the last time you were together with the Good Times cast?
We were together 2 years ago in Hollywood. We did a book signing. We did a autograph signing, and we had Janae. It was the week after Kobe Bryant had passed away. Wow. And we did a book signing with Janae, Johnny Brown, Jimmy Walker, Ralph Carter, myself. John was in Australia or somewhere. He couldn't come, but we did our book signing, and we were all together. And it was the funniest feeling that I had. And Janae looked so pretty, and Johnny Brown is so funny. And so anyway, we're sitting there, and someone said to her, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you. You look so beautiful," and gave her the most beautiful smile. I said, "You see that?" And so then she smiled. But then when we left, I had a feeling, something hit me, that I might not see Johnny Brown anymore. Oh, wow. But I said, he was talking, and I said, oh, I shouldn't have cut him off. I was rushing, trying to pack. And I said, Johnny, I love you, though. I love you. We'll talk. And then I said, but I didn't know it would have been Janae. But I felt something about her, too. But I said, come on, that's crazy. But I did feel it. And a week later, Janae passed away. And about a year later, Johnny Brown passed away, but we all were together saying, "We love you, Kobe." Oh, it was amazing. Wow. Yeah. So that was the last time we were all together.
Queen Bernadette, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it so much.
You're beautiful.
You're beautiful. And DBL Nation, you can see more of Bernadette in The Family Business on BET. Thank you again.
Thanks,
we appreciate
Bernadette.
you so much.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. What an honor.
We'll be right back.
Our viewers are talking about DBL.
Yes!
I like that.
Leaves me speechless. I'm like blushing.
Thank you, thank you.
That's emotional.
Do I want to sit there and watch them? Yes, I do.
This episode has been.
Oh my gosh, it's been so emotional.
Oh.
Like I am.
You're gonna be tired.
I am exhausted.
You're gonna be tired.
I feel like I ran a marathon. I'm like, why am I crying?
Isn't it crazy? Like just emotional, like drains everything out of your body.
Very good job, Anthony.
That was great.
job.
She was lovely.
She was absolutely lovely, and I didn't know Juilliard. I didn't know that she studied at Juilliard. That's fantastic.
When someone says that, it's like
you
don't. I'm like
I don't know,
way
people
better
at
than me in
home
every
know
way.
you could be in anything you want. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Once you're in Juilliard, you're like, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And it has to be said that I felt like I was asking a question on behalf of every man that I knew that had a crush on her, which was every
Rob, our camera guy,
single
same thing.
like I don't
Crush
think
on her.
because the internet has made it so people don't know everybody. Every Rob, our camera guy, every man in my universe was like, she's
beautiful
yes.
her entire
Yes.
life.
Yeah,
Like, that's
that
amazing.
was-
I thought the story about coming out of Juilliard, living in the projects,
Yeah.
and then the first role was playing a young woman in the projects. Like, that is like when something is made for you because you've been following your path.
Totally.
Like,
She said it was like
that's
God
incredible.
sent. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then from there, you're famous.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Norman Lear.
there's
famous.
only 3 channels, and you're on that kind of famous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a type of fame that most people can't handle, and then not only just deal with the loss of her mother slowly deteriorating, but then to find beauty in that, write a book from that, then book a show on top of that, and have this personality coming out of you is just like what a life. But it kind of shows you with all the people we've interviewed today that there's something different.
Yeah, there is.
About certain
There is.
people where
'Cause we feel it.
There's a grit inside of it.
30 seconds.
Welcome back to a special edition of DBL. Now, there aren't really any Juneteenth movies, but now there's one that takes place on the holiday, and it might just surprise you. Take a look.
Put your hands up that you shoot with, count your
But
loot
we
with.
don't on Juneteenth. Where are you going?
Look for the fuse box. What kind of house is this? No, thank you.
The blackening?
That was a clip from The Blackening, and earlier we caught up with one of the stars, comedian Jay Farrow. Here's our interview.
First of all, from everybody here, congrats on your new movie. It's The Blackening. It's a scary, funny movie with an all-black cast.
Yes.
Takes place on Juneteenth. Shout out to that. But everybody wants to know, now, does this guarantee that a black character will still be the first to die?
Hey, man, you just... Look, I know what you're trying to do, but you just gonna have to come and see if that's the ongoing narrative, you know? Hey, mystery is sexy, so that answer I just gave you was attractive as hell.
What makes the killer in this movie different from other scary movie villains?
You've never seen somebody trying to take out a whole bunch of black people in a horror film. And forget the killer, man. The movie is just different. It's something that's never been done before. You know, an all-black cast, and then different representations of black folks all across the black spectrum. You know, and this movie breaks down a lot of different stereotypes and things of that sort. And it's really fun. You have to watch it. You gotta watch it with your folks inside of a theater, because it's like call out and response. You're gonna be. It's so much fun. I've been in 3 screenings, and every single one that I have seen, it has been the same thing, and people just are laughing and having the best time of their life. So I'm like, I can't believe it. Yeah, got one. This is good.
Congrats.
Well, I look forward to yelling at the screen, but that's no different than any other movie I go to anyway. So your big break was Saturday Night Live, and you were very vocal about the show's lack of representation. So for the folks in the back, why was it so important to point out that only a handful of black women have been a part of the cast?
Because the black women in our community are seriously talented, and they need to be highlighted because there's so many of them. And when they do get highlighted, they get opportunities like The Blackening.
Jay, you can do more than 200 impersonations. I wanted to know, who was your very first, and how did you practice it? How did you get around it? Was it the words? Was it physical?
It was. It couldn't be too physical because it was Iago off of Aladdin. It was the parrot. It was Gilbert Godfrey.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was just it's so crazy that he was my first impression, but he was. bang. Like I did that when I was a kid, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and she told me that you said you're really good at impressions. You're real good at that at 6 years old. So I said, all right, Sarah, maybe I'll just continue. And then now I got over 200.
Sarah,
and,
it happened.
Shout out to Sarah.
Sarah, for
Shout
sure.
out to Sarah. Shout out to Sarah.
What have other celebrities said about your impressions of them? Because they are so perfected.
Everybody, there normally isn't a problem with me emulating anyone. Nobody's come up to me and had anything negative or bad to say. But I did get a phone call from Kanye West back in 2014, and yeah. But Kanye is just Kanye, so you can just expect him to be who he is, and the fact that he's the only one that had something negative to say about that, well, it speaks multitudes about my talent and his character.
That's exactly right. Kanye, is that something you do with the how do you start your Kanye physically?
How do you start a Kanye West impression? Well, basically, you got to start out with talking and addressing folks, and also allowing people to know that you're an entrepreneur and that you don't have any evidence of a Chicago accent left inside of your accent because you've been with the Kardashians for way too long.
Dude, that was really good.
That was amazing. And can we just say, as the two Chicagoans on the panel, we concur.
He subtracted it. He subtracted his Chicago accent and he adopted a rich Canadian white one. It's different. It's not the same anymore. He's Kanye West, and he's Kanye West, the corporation, not the rapper anymore.
I wish I could do that.
Sadly, very true.
Very true.
Well, I got to get this out there because I want this brother's name. He's swirling in the heavens right now, but I feel like he's the all-time great orator of black stand-up comedy, Charlie Murphy. You toured with him early. What do you remember touring with Charlie Murphy as a teenager? Talk to us.
I remember Charlie Murphy always keeping everything away from me as far as the comics consumption go. They would indulge, they would do whatever they did, but he would always make sure that I was separated from that. And he turns to me one day and he looks at me, he goes, "Yo, Jay, man, whatever you do, son, never do coke." I was like, yep, not touching that stuff. Whatever. Because I don't know if you want it, but you look horrific right now. So whatever you say, I'm going to listen to you. So I have never touched it.
Jay, thank you so much for joining us. DBL Nation, The Blackening is out now. Thanks again, Jay. We needed that laugh. We'll be right back.
After 4 bloody years, the Union defeated the Confederacy to win the Civil War and abolish slavery in April 1865. There were nearly 4 million slaves in the U.S. at that time. Union armies began marching through the southern states, freeing thousands of slaves each day. The news took months to reach Texas, the westernmost state in the Confederacy. On June 19, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger and 2,000 Union troops rode into Galveston, Texas, and told slaves of their freedom. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. Granger's words spread through Texas. All at once, slaves found out the war was over and they were free. Their joyous, spontaneous celebration gave birth to Juneteenth. Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, commemorates when the last enslaved people in the South were finally set free. Many slaves were met with violence, even death, when they tried to leave. Yet the promise of freedom extinguished fear and fueled generations of indestructible people. Former slaves gathered on Juneteenth the next year, and the year after that. And over the decades, black communities observed the holiday with festive family gatherings, colorful parades, and bountiful barbecues. Texas became the first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday in 1980. Since then, 49 states and D.C. also recognize the holiday. In 2021, President Biden signed the bill making June 19th the 11th federal holiday in the United States. Juneteenth is a celebration of independence, the day all Americans were truly free.
Welcome back to a special edition of DBL. Many adults are still learning about Juneteenth, and now even more children will know about it. Earlier, we spoke to the authors of Juneteenth, a children's book all about this special holiday. Take a look. Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you guys for being here. Van, I want to talk to you first, man. You know, in the eyes of most Americans, Juneteenth is a relatively new holiday. So what do most people not know about Juneteenth?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know what most people do not know about Juneteenth, but what I would like most people to know is that it is a holiday that can be celebrated by all.
Dan, like Amanda Gorman, you are an acclaimed poet, and many books about representation are now currently under attack, and they're being banned. I wanted to know, did you face any challenges in publishing and distributing your book, Juneteenth?
No, the book just came out, and everything that we've experienced so far has been very favorable, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the book is going to go.
Mazel. Now, Reginald, both you and Samson created the iconic Juneteenth mural in Galveston, Texas. Now, this became a national holiday just 2 years ago, at least a nationally recognized holiday. What were some of the earliest celebrations like?
So the mural was created just 3 days before, or let me say it was dedicated just 3 days before the national holiday was announced. And this was such a big moment for the city of Galveston, which is the birthplace of Juneteenth. Galveston has been celebrating Juneteenth literally since 1865, almost 158 years. But it was very different because there were literally millions of Americans who woke up wondering, a new holiday, Juneteenth, what is that? And why this book is so important is that now generations of young people will have an opportunity to learn about Juneteenth through the powerful words that Van has created and the artwork that Samson and I have been able to illustrate. And hopefully they'll be able to share that message of this important part of American history with their own families for generations to come.
Well, I'll tell you, that's happening in real time, brother, because, you know, my kids are 16, 15, and 8, and they don't know a world without Juneteenth. And I remember being a young guy getting calendars, being like, what is Juneteenth, and having to figure that out. So it is happening before, so it's a beautiful thing. Samson, I'm coming to you, man. Now, you could have told this story through the point of view of a lot of different people, but you chose to tell the story of Juneteenth through the eyes of a child. So walk us through your thinking as to why you think that was the most effective way.
It's the most effective way because the children are, you know, the leaders of tomorrow, like it's always says, like a cliche, but the fact is that that's the truth. We're here today because we were younger yesterday. Now we're here. And the life is actually like a relay race. So we pass the baton to our children and they take it to the future. And that's why this book is very important.
In Seder, in Judaism, because I'm Jewish, they always teach it through the eyes of a child because it's the easiest way to teach, and it also doesn't presume that you might not know everything. It's a beautiful way of doing this.
Thank you all for sharing. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us and sharing the story of Juneteenth. DBL Nation, copies of Juneteenth are now available where all books are sold. We'll be right back.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you,
This
gentlemen.
is awesome.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Former President Donald Trump has been indicted on 37 counts related to mishandling classified documents after he left office. Court records reveal FBI agents took 11 sets of classified records from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate during a search on August 8th. In an August 12th post on Truth Social, a social media platform he founded, Trump claimed that the documents were all declassified. The former president's comments prompted several of our viewers, including Beverly and Carol, to ask, can the president declassify documents? So let's verify. Our sources are the U.S. Constitution, Executive Order 13526, Cal McClanahan, Executive Director of the National Security Counselors, a nonprofit public interest law firm, and Richard Immerman, professor and historian at Temple University. According to our sources, a president does have the authority to declassify documents while they're in office, but it isn't a formal process. Let me walk you through the levels of classification in the U.S. government and when presidents can and cannot exercise their power to declassify government records. The 3 levels of classification in the U.S. government are confidential, secret, and top secret. National security expert Kel McClanahan says the classification assigned to a document dictates
the level of damage that its release would cause to the national security of the United States.
According to the National Archives, a select group of government officials have classification authority, including the president, vice president, and agency heads. But let's focus on the president. The Supreme Court ruled the president's power over classified information comes from executive authority granted by the Constitution. A sitting U.S. president has wide-ranging authority to classify and declassify certain documents, but a former president does not. To classify a document, a sitting president has to make a plausible argument that it's related to national security, according to McClanahan. But he says there isn't the same requirement for declassifying documents.
He doesn't have to give any reason for declassifying it. He can just say, I decide that this should be declassified, and it's declassified.
According to our sources, there isn't a formal protocol the president has to follow in order to declassify government information. But historian Richard Immerman says there is an informal one that presidents generally follow. First, the president consults all departments and agencies that have an interest in a classified document. They provide an assessment as to whether the document should stay classified for national security reasons, and if there's a dispute among the agencies, they debate it. But ultimately, it's the president that makes the decision on declassification. So we can verify, yes, a president can declassify documents, but there isn't a set protocol that they have to follow. So what about the documents found at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate? Well, there are other federal laws that bar a former president from taking government documents, regardless of whether or not they were declassified. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till. Are you skeptical of headlines and what you see on social media? We are too. The Verify newsletter helps you distinguish between true and false information by answering your questions. It provides fast facts on trending topics, spotlights major stories, and even includes a daily fun fact for all those trivia buffs out there. Get Verify's fast facts delivered every weekday to your email inbox. Go to verifythis.com/email to check it out.
Welcome back. Keeping your joints healthy is essential to life, and we have some tips to help you design your diet. It's time for some joint and muscle support brought to you by Omega XL. First, get your vitamin C in. Next, reduce your sugar intake and add fish oils into your diet, or fish in general, for the omega-3 benefit.
Both are great.
Yeah. Omega XL has improved the lives of millions of consumers. Supported by 30 years of clinical research, Omega XL's powerful and proven benefits have transformed the lives of athletes, celebrities, and dedicated daily users. Call 1-800-813-6801 or visit omegaxl.com for more information.
You did fantastic today.
Really. Yes. This has been emotional.
It really has.
Beautiful.
It really has.
Thank you for watching our special.
Where hope finds help. Where courage meets conviction. Where makers make fans. We are Tegna, a family of local and national media brands that bring us together, serving the greater good of our communities, where national know-how backs local business. Be in good company with Tegna.
Have either of you ridden horseback on a beach? That is a huge bucket list for me.
I feel like a huge hospital bill for you.
You are literally a Ken doll.
Wow.
It is life. No,
Thank
it's a compliment.
Do I look relaxed?
Yeah.
It's moving. Sorry, we have a spider. Chris, it's moving. Can we just...
Y'all, seriously.
Sorry. Okay, let's get right to it.
I can't take this anymore.